I just need one moment here. I'm going to do one more button there that'll pop up on your screen.
Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, April 27, 2023 Scituate Planning Board meeting held here in the Select Board hearing room. We're a little short staffed tonight. I do expect Ms. Lewis, Mr. McClain is joining us via Zoom. Therefore, all of our, we don't need roll call votes. We have a posted agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Burbine. Aye. Mr. Borstein.
Aye.
Ms. Lambert.
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Thank you, all in favor.
Okay, so the first is our public hearing, is scenic road / public shade tree from 493 Country Way to 4 Arbor Way Drive. And a gentleman from.
They can come up and get settled and I'll read.
Okey dokes.
In accordance with Mass General Laws, MGL, Chapter 87, Public Shade Tree Law, Section 3, cutting of public shade trees hearing damages, and Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 15C, the Scenic Road Act, the Town of Scituate Tree Warden and Planning Board will hold a public hearing regarding an application from National Grid to remove public shade trees and trees on the scenic road or country way at 6:30 p.m. on April 27, 2023, in the Selectmen's Hearing Room, Town Hall, Scituate, Mass. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on this matter should appear at the time and place designated. The work is recommended by National Grid's arborists to remove hazard trees in order to reduce tree outage problems affecting customers served by these lines. National Grid's arborists have identified 10 town-owned trees for removal along Country Way and 1 tree for pruning. Town trees located within the public way that are designated for removal have been posted in the field with a notice of public hearing. The affected town trees on Country Way are 10 trees over 3-inch caliber for removal on 4 Arbor Way Drive, to 493 Country Way, Assessor's Lots 26-2-4 to 37-7-18. A complete list of town trees designated for removal, including information about the location, size, and species of the affected trees and the reason for the work proposed, is available at the Planning Board office at Town Hall and the Tree Warden's office at the DPW garage on Captain Pierce Road during normal business hours. Thank you very much.
Hey,
And just so you know, Ms. Lewis is on her way.
thank you.
She'll be here shortly.
So you're here to tell us what you have to do.
Good evening, my name is Joseph King, National Grid Forestry Supervisor. I'm an ISA board certified master arborist. This is Nate Nikifor, he's a forestry consultant with National Grid, ISA certified arborist. On that stretch named on Country Way, we did identify 10 trees that pose a risk to the utility infrastructure as far as reliability or damage to that infrastructure, and also pose a threat to the public roadway. National Grid is not a tree company. We're not in the interest of cutting down trees haphazardly, but these trees were identified as posing a risk, and we would like to remove them. We did seek a butter authorization for all removals, in which case the closest abutters have signed off on those removals. We also have the support of Mike Green, the tree warden for the town of Scituate. He did also assess the trees. He is in agreement that they pose a level of risk.
This is a public meeting, a public hearing, so I will take comment from anybody in the room first.
I just want to let you know that we do have a letter from Mike Green saying he's in full agreement with the attached National Grid tree removal and pruning list.
How about anybody online? I see Freya has her hand raised. Oh, identify yourself, Freya, your name and address, please.
Just give a second to unmute her.
Hi. Freya Schlegel, 9 Westgate Lane. My property is directly across the street on Country Way from these trees. And I looked at the trees today and they definitely look like they are in poor shape, and we've had other trees fall down and they need to be removed. But seeing how it's a water resource protection area, is there any way that new trees could be planted perhaps across the street or, on the same properties that would eventually be shade trees on that stretch of property? Or is it, gone forever? Because we're gonna need more trees. If they keep on, especially in this area, some of the, the clearing from that last development that went in, there was a lot of trees lost. And I think that's my comment.
Mr.
Thank
Green,
you.
can you answer that for us?
Yes, usually if anybody asks for a tree that we remove in front of their property or near their property or on the shade area, we try to accommodate them if we have funds available for that. But we do try to try to plant as many trees as we can, as that we do remove, but sometimes money, it comes a little bit tight and we're not able to do as many as we remove, but we do try to get it. I don't know if it can be in the same area as the trees that we're removing. Some of those trees are just shoots from a larger tree. They're not an exact tree, but some of the bigger trees, yes.
So how does one go about requesting a tree?
They would just come and see me, or, I went to some of the butters today and talked to them or anything like that, and no one had mentioned anything about a tree. They were very happy to be able to get their trees down,
So Freya, would you feel comfortable going to talk to Mr. Green?
Yeah, I could come, and see him.
I'll come see you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just when you're taking trees down, and I'm not in disagreement that these trees need to be taken down, but that, the root systems do protect, the runoff into the street. And there is a lot of runoff in that area right now. And I don't know, I just feel like if we're taking down a tree, we should plant a tree, even if it's going to take 20 years and somebody else is going to enjoy their, shade and beauty, we should do it. That's my comment. Thank you.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sure. Looking at all of what you have given us, I couldn't agree more with what you're doing. A lot of these are scrub. I mean, they are, except for the 18-inch maple, but is that one of those Norway maples?
It is.
Which is,
It's an invasive species.
it's a weed. So I can understand the other one, the 17-inch maple, that too is probably Norway. And one encroaching on the wires. I mean, we have to do what we have to do.
From a utility standpoint, we're not removing perfectly healthy trees.
I know that, I'm well aware.
Yeah.
But,
And the first complaint is we don't have any power, because all the trees fell down.
You know, I totally understand, replanting and trying not to lose all the trees and things. I think right tree, right place is always the best mindset when it comes to planting a tree. As a utility representative, the trees that we're removing are trees that are not capable species to be planted under wire anyway. So I wouldn't be able to kind of replant the same species in the same location.
The National Grid has been great to recommend trees that would be better suited for the area too, when we do reduce it. They've been great to recommend.
no rolling nipples.
You can't get them anymore.
You can't get them anymore
In
anyway.
case I can.
Yeah, they're weeds. This,
Do we have a tree farm, or do we not have a tree
We did,
farm?
but I have the dog
We
park.
did have a tree farm, we don't have one.
Okay, we don't have one anymore.
No,
The dog park.
That's where the dog park was.
Oh. You know that, yes.
Also, if I may, regarding replantings, that's something that Mike and I can also work with. I do have a small budget for tree plantings. And so if we find a suitable location or somebody that's in need of a replanting, we can certainly accommodate that.
Well, we appreciate everybody complains when there's no power, right? That's the first of the year, right? Why is this all been done? So yes, sir, would you like to identify yourself, please?
Hi, good evening. Brad Barrett from 495 Country Way. Also the owner of house at 475 Country Way. Just seeking some clarity, because I'm all for keeping our electricity in place. Certainly a lot of the trees along that area certainly do need to come down or do need trimming. But I just have some kind of specific questions. The public notice that's posted on the website is different than the public notice that are posted on the trees on Country Way. The public notice on the website says 10 trees, whereas the public notice posted on the trees enumerates 23 trees written out, and then in parentheses, it has number 10. So I'm just curious about that. Also, the list includes from taking of trimming of trees from 4 Arbor Way down to 493 Country Way. And being very familiar with that area since I lived there, I question why there are also trees tagged at 475 Country Way, 77 Country Way, and the Egypt Garage, which might be 469 Country Way. There's an inconsistency there that probably needs to be cleared up.
So Mr. Green, can you
Now,
answer?
very specific, now, this
Okay.
is number 4, question
Okay.
4. Specifically on my lot at 475 Country Way, there's a maple tree that was, my father planted there 65 years ago. So I'm very familiar with it. It's on my property, it's not on the public way property. Whereas all the notices seem to indicate that they're doing the cutting and trimming on a public way. So I'm wondering, is that a mistake or what happened and why is that tree ticketed? And then question number 5, if that tree does need trimming, which it probably does, and I'm all for that because it's intruding on the wires, why isn't the other maple tree right beside it, which is also intruding onto the wires, not tagged? Okay, I guess that's my 5 questions.
So Mr. Green, can you tell us when there are additional trees?
Yeah, when we were looking at the trees initially, the original trees are on the posting, but I also posted other trees that I felt were a problem and National Grid thought was a problem also. So I tagged all the trees, so.
I can't hear.
Oh, come on up here.
No, I'm sorry. So anyone could have a, if anyone had a question about any of the trees, they could call. That's why I posted all the trees, but the ones posted were just for the shade trees that were in the town right away. The other trees were off, even better explain that.
That's correct. The 10 shade trees that are associated with this meeting are within the public way. It's the public shade tree hearing. So there are trees that were identified for removal outside of the public way on private property.
Why? Or who did that?
National Grid, our National Grid notified.
Why would private property be targeted?
They're not posted as part of the shade tree hearing. They were identified for removal. So you may see some trees that were marked the outside of the public way that are identified for removal. As far as the posting of the trees, if you're wondering about the number of trees posted, as Mike just described, he put the postings on private property trees just to increase awareness of the trees that were coming down and to see if anybody had any additional questions.
So Mr. Mayor, you're concerned that your tree is going to be taken down. Is that what you're telling me?
That's one of
Okay, can
them.
we-
Plus, I'm also very confused by the process. Yes, that specific tree has me concerned.
Okay.
Is it a tree that you would like us to reevaluate? I mean, we went through and did a tree by tree assessment, and we do have an authorization form with your signature for the work proposed.
It's a tree, a maple tree, that's in good health on private property. Why are you calling for an evaluation?
Well, I guess I'm confused by what you're asking.
So why can we maybe have a meeting at another time?
Yes.
Then you can meet together and you can talk through what tree this is, because I
And
don't
we'll
know.
put that on hold
Yeah.
and have a meeting, make
Are
sure.
you, so you're trying to cut trees on private property, is that what you're
Well,
telling
if
me?
it causes a danger to the public or I feel like it's gonna fall.
Well, the
on
notice
road,
says-
Or it's gonna take.
I guess I'm confused because the notice says public way trees.
So, Mr. Green, can you maybe meet with Mr. Merritt and
Yeah,
have the walkthrough with him? Would that be okay, Mr. Merritt? Then Mr. Green will come out and speak with you at your home and you can walk through the trees?
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll put everything on hold on
Well,
ours for right now, and I'll have National Grid take another look at it.
And what about the trees on 477 and down to these drives? Those are now included in this
No, they're not,
vote tonight?
they're not included as they're not public shade trees, those are privately owned trees.
Uh-huh.
To give notice to people that they are no wishing
So
trees.
then 475 would be included.
So in the future, I'll make sure instead of posting, I'll just post the trees that were coming, that were on the shade trees, and I will do a different type of posting for any I feel are a danger that might cause trouble, landing on a car or being able to fall. So, and you're right, it wasn't clarified, I just put a tree there, so if somebody had a question or wanted a new tree or something and it was in their property, they could call me, like you did call me and talk to me, but we didn't.
But we never had got
I know, I was,
any clarity.
yeah,
And I had also visited the selectman's office. And it just, all we ended up with was more questions than answers.
yeah, I want to make sure you're happy about the situation, and that this tree is safe, it's not gonna fall on the wires or fall on the vehicle or anything like that, so. I'm not here to start any problems with you or anything like that, that's why I do post the trees when we have these here.
Okay, we all set then? So we'll have you guys can leave us like, and you have a motion.
Move that the planning board,
Hold on, wait.
okay. Move that the planning board vote to approve the removal by National Grid under the hazard tree mitigation program of the following trees under the Scenic Road Act, public shade trees in accordance with the attached list and as summarized herein as the trees are being removed to reduce tree outage problems affecting large numbers of National Grid customers. Country Way, Scenic Road, remove 10 trees over 3-inch caliber and prune 1 tree. Replacement trees may be provided if requested, if funds permit.
Is there a second?
Second.
We need a
All
roll
those
call
in
vote,
favor, Ms. Lambert,
please. Yes.
Mr. Bornstein,
Aye.
Ms. Burbine,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. McLean,
Aye.
thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
Mr. Merritt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Want to get one?
Okay, moving right along, we're 5 minutes behind, first half hour here.
Which is an answer.
Okay, we have a 6:45 public hearing.
You want Thomas?
Mr. Green, can you take that to the hallway and bring it again? Mr. Green.
9 to 12.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, give me my- Okay, so we have a public hearing, a site plan administrative review and a special permit for 4 multi-family buildings, one on the center and neighborhood district of North Scituate, the outer Greenbush, and North Scituate Village District, the outer village, VCN, NSBO, 817 Country Way, map lot, -2-38-F, they can give a public.
Yes, we do, in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 9 and 11, and with Scituate zoning bylaw, Section 580, Village Center and Neighborhood District, Section 750, Design Review, Section 770, Site Plan Review, and 940, Referral. The planning board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, April 27, 2023, at 6:45 p.m. in the Select Board's hearing room, Scituate Town Hall, 600 Chief Justice Cushing Highway, Scituate. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by Option C Properties LLC, Chris Bruce, manager, for a site plan review and special permit for 4 multifamily buildings in the Village Center and Neighborhood District, North Scituate Village District, Outer Village, VCN, NSV, OV, and stormwater permit regarding the construction of 3 new multifamily buildings and renovation of 1 existing multifamily building. The existing multifamily building consists of 8 units that are proposed to be age-restricted units, 55 years plus. The proposed project would have a total of 55 residential units and a total of 85 bedrooms, associated parking, site utilities, and site amenities at the project location of 87 Country Way. The property is owned by Option C Properties LLC. The property is shown on assessor's maps as parcels 12-2-38-F. Plans are available for review in the board office, town hall, by appointment only. Please call, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're in for a big one.
Good.
All right.
Good. Introduce everyone, I'm Bill Laurenberg with my colleague Matt Mitchell. Also, we have with us today from Option C Properties, we have three clients, Chris Prute, Sean Stockbridge, and Kenny Sanchez. And in addition to that, Kevin Grady, our engineer, is here, and Jamie Keller, architect. So, just a very brief thing, I'm going to turn this over to Kevin so he can tell you about the site. And then Jamie will give you brief tips about the design that's related to this. We understand, obviously, the first of a few hearings which we're going to have. And so we'll get an overview and we'll get to that. I can see the town consulting engineer is here, which is great. And we have filed with the Conservation Commission a notice of intent. But we continue this because we also understand until we get a tighter control on the stormwater issues, we have a joint stormwater authority that has to be addressed. So, without any further ado, I'm going to have Kevin explain the site characteristics and the development.
If I go up to the board, you'll be able to hear me.
Move things around here real quick. Okay. Thank you. They can't hear me though. Sorry, what's that?
Yeah, microphone.
Okay. Thank you. What if I move this down, I can stand beside the plans maybe?
Yeah.
Or a bigger room, I guess.
Yeah, it's a whiteboard. I don't know.
Yeah. Again, Kevin Grady from Grady Consulting on the applicant design team group. Right into the opening, we're in the Village Center Neighborhood District, North Scituate Village, Outer Village Overlay District. Property is on the border of Cohasset Town Line at the end of Country Way. The property consists of 101,000 plus or minus square feet. Has frontage on Country Way of 244 plus or minus square feet. I'm just going to start with the existing addition, if I may. So the site currently consists of an 8-unit building in the front here. There was a single-family, 4-bedroom, single-family house in this location here that's been removed within the last year or so. And there's a building in the back here that contains a landscape business on the bottom floor and apartment on the top floor. The owners have decided that they need to improve this property. As you're aware, the zoning has changed in the last few years, which allows some density development in these village districts, particularly near train stations. So again, the site's bounded to the north by the Cohasset Town Line and some residential abutters here. To the east is Country Way. To the south is a commercial building here, parking lot here, and there's also Lincoln Park is located here. The site
topography basically slopes from a high point about here, and everything from there currently flows to the street without any drainage controls. Everything that flows off here breaks in this direction to an existing catch basin approximately here. The site currently utilizes town water, electric, and it has an on-site septic system located about here. There is no gas service to this property. The gas main ends right about on this property line here. The site is, I'd say, approximately 2/3 completely developed. And the rear third is wooded. To the rear here is a bordering vegetated wetland right on the lot line. I forgot to mention to the west, there's a west to the MBTA.
Yeah, so that's the trigger, right?
Yeah, and train tracks over here. So there's a bordering vegetated wetland on this lot line, basically. There's also a bordering, there's a bordering vegetated wetland and since you remove the dam, apparently it's now a river, so there's a riverfront zone associated with that. That portion is gonna be, the buffer zones to that are previously developed. As you read in, the applicant's proposing 4 buildings. They're looking to retain the existing front building, and it's 8 units, looking to age restrict these units to over 55. And then there's 3 additional buildings, buildings 2, 3, and 4. Also proposed basically the breakdown of these buildings for units and bedrooms. Building 1, again, 8 units, over 55. Building 2 is proposed to have 16 units, 24 bedrooms. Building 3 has 15 units and 21 bedrooms. Building 4 is, again, gonna have 16 units and 24 bedrooms. We did a thorough review of the zoning bylaws for horizontal dimensional control, coverages, amenity spaces. I've been permitting quite a few of these, you know the bylaw real well by now. So the front setback is controlled by, AES calls the front build to zone. This building is existing, so we're not really building to anything, however, it actually lands under 10 to 30 foot required build to zone, coincidentally. The side setback, the minimum requirement is 15 feet. Our closest points, we have 2 points here and here that are just over 16 feet setback. The rear, we have 77 feet to the rear lot line. We require 20. And again, actually over here, we have 16 feet again. The buildings are spaced out throughout the lot. There is this basically 70-foot separation between these buildings here. It's 48 feet here and 85 feet, so they're spaced out. They're on top of each other, providing some open space between the buildings. The site is accessed or proposed to be accessed by a 24-foot wide drive that goes basically through the middle. There is 70 proposed parking spaces. They're 9 by 18 with a 24-foot wide drive. Easy maneuvering to access those spaces. We're proposing 8 accessible spaces, 2 at each building. We have a ramp proposed in the building 2. The other ones are at grade for straight entrance, and actually the entrances line up with the front doors for the most part, or existing walkways. If they don't, it's because of on building 2 here. It's because of the slope of the road, and we've provided access via a ramp. We've proposed 3 sets of bike racks throughout the property, 1, 2, just 1 each, 2, and 3. A lot of existing conditions.
Move that a little bit more, so can the audience see the plan? The audience can't see the plan at all. Thank you.
So in the existing conditions that I described, the site flowed, or the slope basically went from about this portion of the property down to the countryway, and then any runoff from down. We're trying to match grade as much as possible. We don't want to bring in fill, there's cost associated with that, and we're trying to change drainage patterns, and we're trying to match the site. We do have to elevate though. We are proposing some items that I'll get to shortly that require groundwater separation. So we are raising the site throughout the middle here. So as I indicated before, with the spacings of the buildings, that allows us to provide amenity spaces. We've got 22,600 plus or minus square feet of amenity spaces. Remind me, I'll go back when we get to the landscape plan and point those out for you. I can go to landscape plan now, I guess. That's what I was going to do. The lead sheet of the plan lays out the amenity areas and their square footages. We can look at those details at any time, but generally we're proposing some, all the open spaces between the buildings are going to be amenity spaces. So we've got space here, and located between this building here, this one here, and also down here. So we've got sitting areas proposed, spread out around the development. The landscape plan was done by our registered landscape architect, Bart Lipinski. The landscape plan proposes 65 trees throughout the site, providing shade for sitting areas and parking lots, etc. There's numerous shrubs and bushes proposed for the landscape or the foundation walls. We are proposing to retain the stone walls that exist along the perimeter of the property. Some farmer years ago put these in. They are nice boundary lines between the properties that would like to maintain. I think we've provided a lot of green space. Of course, it can't all be green space. These people who live here need places to park. They need facilities like dumpsters and drainage, etc. So we developed a stormwater management system that complies with the state stormwater regulations and the town of Scituate stormwater regulations, and we broke it up into several different drainage systems. Basically, where the drainage is broken up. So runoff from the development, as I said before, runs off of the site unattenuated. There's no drainage structures Now what we're going to do is direct water to deep sump hooded catch basins, to drain manholes, to subsurface drainage systems. So we have a set of catch basins back here. We have a set in the middle trying to catch everything up in the high area. And then the site, this portion of the site slopes down to Country Way. We've located catch basins at the bottom of that slope to catch any runoff. So this is actually going to improve the runoff out of this driveway on the Country Way. We spread the infiltration of the stormwater throughout the lot so that it's not discharging all in one area. The roof systems, we collect the roof drains and piping around the perimeter of the buildings and discharge them directly into the subsurface drainage systems. These systems here, in the larger storms, will overflow a pipe, it's a 6-inch pipe out of this subsurface drainage system, and that is adjacent to this catch basin that collects the water today. So the water today runs off with no catch basins. Any sediment that's in there can get to this catch basin before leaving the site. What we're doing now is we're collecting that through catch basins and putting in an infiltration systems, subsurface infiltration system. So we're taking out sediment, we're providing some infiltration for water cooling, but in larger storms we need to let some go. It is designed to minimize the peak rates and volumes, so we're holding back the storms in those subsurface drainage systems before letting them go at a rate that's less than what it is currently. We are proposing an on-site septic system. So there, as I mentioned, on the existing condition, there is an existing system associated with this building here. There's tankage here, a singular pressure dose leaching field that discharges in this location. We're going to age restrict this site to reduce the flow. We're going to pick up a few of the units in this building here and route them to this system. We are permitting that with the Board of Health. We're in discussions with them. The majority of building 2 and all of 3 and 4 go to 2, let's see, I have a highlighter in my, see real quick. So each of these units has its own septic tank. And actually, since it's over 2,000 gallons a day, it gets 2 septic tanks. Each one of them, so here, here, and here. So effluent comes out of the buildings and is routed through a sewer system basically over to 2 Presby advanced enviroseptic leaching fields. We've designed numerous of these over the years, and we've had great success with them. That, you know, high grease sites, high flow sites. So I think it's a good use here for the Presby system. We are proposing to connect to town water. There's a 12-inch main out in Country Way. We're proposing to connect an 8-inch main on this side of the property to bring water all the way back to building 4, a larger pipe to provide volume and pressure to supply each of these buildings. Each of these buildings has fire suppression systems, so there's also a 6-inch pipe connecting to each one of these buildings to sprinkler them. We are proposing a hydrant at the rear of the property in this island here. There's also a hydrant in the front Can't see here at the moment, I think it's right in here somewhere. Anyway, there's one here and there's one down there. We got comments today from the fire department that like an additional 2. So we'll look at placing another couple of hydrants.
Work.
There you go.
You gotta make sure they work, that's the problem. It took me 10 years to get one to work.
We currently the electric on the property is overhead. We have overhead electric to the utility pole here. We also have overhead electric to this existing building. The thought right now is to keep it overhead to this utility pole. We put an island there. We'll connect to a transformer, and then we will route electric to the various buildings, lighting systems, et cetera. The utility company has last say on where all that stuff goes, but I think we've got plenty of room for them to work with, and I've given them a layout for that. We're not proposing to connect to the gas. Again, that ends down here. We'd have to dig up the road, and it's not necessary at this point. We are proposing a dumpster. We have a couple of dumpsters back here. We'll have to have regular trash pickup for the density we have here, but there's 20 by 20, I believe. We have a good sized space for trash and refuse.
Like Mr. Green, we have a really long night, so we need to keep it really tight for all the public hearings.
Let's see, sure. Let's go real quick on a couple of things. I prepared an erosion and sediment control plan. We want to, during construction, we want to keep the storm water from running out into the road or onto abutting property, so I provided some detail on how to accomplish that. We've prepared a lighting plan. Very difficult, this print's pretty difficult to see, but we envisioned a handful of light poles, the 16-foot poles in the open areas, and then we proposed a number of bollard lights along the walkways. That low lighting would work well on a site like this. You can easily see this here. We're showing that we're not casting light onto the abutting residences, and most of the lighting, most of the light pollution would be from this existing building pointing at us. Yeah, in this case. Any other highlights that I?
No, two things if I could just interlude. One is a traffic report from Vanessa will be forthcoming shortly. They had some personnel changes in there and things that had some problems we realized we haven't addressed that. The other thing I was remiss in not saying at the outset is we also understand that we're asking for a density bonus. These are going to be rental units, we include the towns. We're going to provide 20%. And we also understand we're addressing the fair housing affordability and the public realm improvements we have to discuss. We have some streetway improvements. I've informed my clients about another like projects, and we're reviewing some of the affordability criteria, 80 versus 60%, and some other things. So we need to get some input from the board. And the other thing, just briefly, is we provided the required number of parking spaces. Obviously, with the close proximity to the MBTA, is if the board desires to waive some of that, then we can have some more green space and less parking. But that's not a subject for this evening. One thing, and I'll turn this over to Jamie, at some point, if it's possible, to get a meeting scheduled before our next meeting with the board, with the design review committee, to get going on that also. Okay? So I don't know if Jamie can give us a brief.
Look at some architecture.
Excuse me,
Yes.
snow removal, where's it going?
Yeah, so I have shown that on the erosion control plan. We have snow removal here. We have some capacity back here and here, but if it piles up, if we get good storms, we're gonna have to take it off site.
Well, let's not kid ourselves, this is not a walk in the park, we know we're gonna be here for a little while, working on a long,
Sure.
long details.
And again, I think, but this is obviously, this is a sizable project.
Yeah.
It's a great opportunity for the town. to provide, transportation-oriented rental housing. And we know there's several things go around. We also know that they're probably more robust with the abutters. We've seen the comments from the abutters. We plan to get together with the abutters and see what kind of additional screening that we can to address some of the issues that they have. So we're amenable to all those, and before our next meeting, we'll report to the board about what our progress in that area is also. The other thing that's kind of unique about this is we've designed on-site, there's a big scrum going on for sewer capacity. We have a on-site septic, which is pretty rare considering, I think the internet test, the soils are lousy up in that zone. We happen to have good soils.
Thanks for joining.
All good.
Her with Axiom Architects, so if I may just.
Can everybody see, can you see that?
Can the audience see it?
Everybody see that?
So the first view we have here might look a little familiar, that's the existing building, which is currently brown, and we propose to sort of give that building a little facelift, update the material to match the proposed new buildings. There would also be a reworking of the grading and the landscaping on that front yard. You see a new retaining wall that creates more of a flat, even front yard there. And you can start to see the new buildings appearing as you look down there. Not quite as imposing as you might think, based on the height of those buildings, but since they sit back, this still becomes kind of the front face of the development. Next image is a depiction of buildings 2 and 4, which are the buildings that have more of a cubic footprint. This angle would actually be the rearmost building, building 4. Building 2 would be a mirror of the same exact building, inside and out. Going right into the floor plans. So this is also a depiction of buildings 2 and 4. We have about 22,000 square feet of total building area, 4 units per level for the total of 16. And we have a even split between 1 and 2 bedroom units on those buildings. We, I believe, also split the floors to have. And each of the buildings would have one proposed accessible apartment on the first level. Second and third floor are actually going just about identical of the unit configurations. Just other basics, we have our 2 stair egresses and the elevator service of each floor. Elevations, architecturally, we try to create, New England style, shingle style, if you will, of architecture to match the aesthetics of the town and give it some nice detail, change of material to accentuate some of the bump outs that we have, dormers, gable projections, a little extra flavor. Side and rear elevations of that building. Building 3, we were in a bit of a more of a narrow part of the site, so this became more of an elongated footprint. We have 15 units in this building. The first floor, we were able to do a 3-bedroom, and then we have 1 bedrooms on the other side, and then as we go up level 2, 3, and 4, we have, so our total square footage on this building is about 18,300. 11 1-bedroom units, 3 2-bedroom units, and 1 3-bedroom unit. 3 and 4 are very similar as well too. Elevations, again, similar style to the other building, bringing in the multiple material, dormers and gable style building, try to avoid flat roof building where we could. Rear and side. That is the architecture in a nutshell.
How's that third building?
We haven't produced a rendering of that one. It shows the building that had the two, just to give the idea of the style and the appearance that we're going for the project.
Okay, well, this is a public hearing.
Can we hear from our consultant?
Somebody needs to hear from our consultant, then we'll try to open this up. Hi, Mr. Ellison, how are you tonight?
Good evening, members of the board. Doing well. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Great. Thank you. Again, my name is Peter Ellison. I'm a civil engineer with TEC working on behalf of the planning board. And I have performed a civil and stormwater review of the site plans and other documents that were submitted as part of the project. My review really focused on the layout of the site plan characteristics, the drainage characteristics, the stormwater system itself, as well as the conformance with the zoning bylaw. I guess from a high level, some of the comments that I would kind of pick out and mention to the board for consideration. One, there's some concerns about accessibility and the slope of the proposed parking lot and driveway into the site. It's currently shown at 9%, which kind of, in my opinion, would exceed industry standards for parking and walkways and sidewalks and the like. The stormwater system itself, they're proposing underground infiltration chambers, as Mr. Grady mentioned. I did have several comments related to that system, so I look forward to working through those with them. And finally, on the zoning section, had a few that I was going to mention. So I believe that the applicant would need to request a waiver for section 750.6, the front yard build to zone. I do think that the way that the bylaw is written, it kind of reads that it would apply to all 4 buildings, not just the one building along the street. Secondly, it looks like they're very close, or they're right at the minimum for the outdoor amenity space that would be required. And I questioned whether or not the proposed leaching fields for the septic system should or should not be included in the area for that amenity space. As currently calculated, it is included. So I guess that's something that the board can discuss. I guess that's really a pretty good high level summary of my letter. If I think I would turn it back over to the board and see if you all have any questions for me.
Any questions before I go into a few things?
I have a comment. You don't take this as a derogatory comment, Mr. Keller. I see you build, this might maybe the 6th building I've seen you build. That's a big building. I was hoping we go in another direction. I know this is something unusual. I know in Greenbush we made a really concerted effort to make it look so new. That's a big building. It's a little, I don't know, can you say it's a little too early? Is that just not even a right thing?
It's your project.
But Mr. Keller and I have had this conversation over many other projects about what buildings should look like in town. I can't say I would expect, because I don't expect anything. I would have thought that you would bring me something a little sleeker, I guess. That's sleeker. That's my only term, since we've done so many of these. That's my only Andrew, anything to say?
They're big, no question about that. My major concern, and I have stated it before and I will state it again, I am vehemently opposed, regardless of the septic system situation, of age-restricted housing. I find it to be exclusionary. I find we're trying to be more inclusive. Those are 2-bedroom apartments. You're not gonna end up with a parcel of kids in there. So I think that, given what it is, and having had a relative in one of those apartments, they're not wonderful. I don't know what you plan to do inside. No dishwasher, 2 small bedrooms, you have to go downstairs to the paid washer and dryer that services all 8 units. And you want to put amenity space on top of the septic system, I have a problem with that too. But other than that, I cannot subscribe, I'm only one person, to 55 Milton.
I second Ann's 55 and older comment. When I first heard that, I was actually really disappointed when this plan was sent to my inbox a couple weeks ago. I think this is the first major redevelopment and investment in North Situate, and Attorney Orberger mentioned the fact that this is a really transit-oriented development, and as part of that, I think we need to provide housing for younger commuters and people that want to come to this town to live here. It also provides the opportunity of being smaller rental units for different types of families or different types of young people that otherwise do not have a point of entry to live in this town. And also, if you're gonna talk about waivers for parking and all this, I would be much more amenable to granting that towards people that are going to be commuters, young professionals, things of that nature, who are actually going to walk and use the train rather than be more likely to rely on automobile transportation to get around and do their things about town. I also think it will help lead to a much more, regardless of transit-oriented development, I think it will also help lead to more of a vibrant downtown village center in North Situate to have a range of different age groups within walking distance. That's my comment there. As far as the building itself, I know it meets the bylaws, it just seems very massive to me and somewhat like a little bit institutional. Yeah, it's institutional looking in this sense, and obviously design review can chime in on this, but just there's something that just when I look at it, I just feel something. I can't explain what it is, but it just seems a little bit like for the mass of it, something's doesn't seem right. Like I feel like if you're going with that sign, I feel like it needs to be a story less, or if you're going with that size, it just something this doesn't work for me, but I'm not an architect. Finally, I guess I also have a philosophical question about amenity space and septic system. And I try to think of an analogy, and for me that would be like if you painted basketball court striping on a parking lot, it's kind of like if you had amenity space in the septic system. You have parking requirement, that's kind of a given, and that's an infrastructure. You have a septic requirement, that's a given, that's infrastructure. The amenity space is kind of like a bonus in order to create more creative open space use for outdoor recreation or aesthetics on these properties. So I'm kind of like on the fence right now, but that is a good question, and I'm leaning towards, is there a different use? Because I also wonder, potentially if the septic, there's going to be design limitations on that amenity space being placed on a septic system on a leach field. From an engineering perspective, I'm assuming that's
The structure, if it's a massive structure.
sure. So we're already defining our design standards for that amenity space based off the existing infrastructure that's under it, which doesn't sit well with me. And then also I question whether if there's an emergency in the leaching field or septic, design has to be, changed or something has to happen with it, then you're kind of you're gonna have to redesign the amenity space, you're losing that opportunity temporarily at least as well. Sorry, I'm putting out all the negative things first. I think that's what you guys want to hear, so you don't have to go through this forever. lastly, the landscape design doesn't seem super robust to me. I know it's a tight site, but maybe I'd also like to see, I don't know, there's no indication whether there's existing vegetation or trees to remain. I'm assuming once you get into Concom stuff, that whole back part of the lot will be retained as such, but it's not really indicated to me in the landscape plan if there's any existing vegetation to remain, and it just maybe there's something there in terms of that could be worked out. And lastly, just on the landscape plan as well as stormwater, I'm just curious about what low impact development principles are kind of employed in the conceptualization of those plans.
Rebecca?
That was just your statement on a question that you waiting to be answered, okay. My issue with the parking is that you could walk to the train from the station, but you cannot walk to a grocery store, so everybody needs a car, at least one. And all I'm hearing is that a lot of these places do not block any areas for guests to park, so nobody can have a friend over, which is an issue.
Rebecca, when we reevaluate this is opportunity, we're gonna have a grocery store in that city.
Maybe, that might be, or a restaurant.
Or a restaurant.
I mean, I just like to see the buildings go to design review. That's about, all I'm going to say. Now, was there a reason you guys chose 55 and older?
Yeah, well, it has to have septic capacity, but it's an existing building and, you know, in all due respect to Ann, that is less than 20% of what the occupancy of this development is. But they're all things we'll look at and have been amenable to them, and so in reality, I'd be shocked if there were 20% of the tenants weren't over 55, just in the demographics of the town. But I also hear what you're saying, and let's take a look at it.
Mr. McLean?
I have no additional comments. Thank you.
Thanks. Karen?
All right, so we did have 10 comments submitted. We got the last one at 5 o'clock today, so I'll get that to the applicant. You know, they have to do with meters for buildings, height, sewer, resource areas, septic systems. Water study is gonna be required. Height of the buildings, the height is out of character for the area, fire hydrants, and sidewalks. So does the board want this referred to the DRC now?
I think it would be a good, first start.
Also, it sounds like they're asking for that as well,
Yeah.
so.
All right, but I mean, you guys have made some pretty clear directives that you don't like some of these buildings as is.
Yes.
Okay. I think we need an identified sequence of construction. I think that really needs to be on the plans. The landscape plan needs beefing up, and existing trees to remain should be identified, as there may not really be anything to save there on the sides. I think the sheet titles and sheet numbers need to be bigger. They're really hard to read and find. We need calculation for impervious in the front yard. And there will be a density bonus required here. It'll be 21 unit density bonus. And they have proposed a sidewalk out in from essentially Lincoln Park, partway up to the site. DPW has given you a comment that DPW supports a public benefit of a sidewalk, but they want a concrete vertical granite curb. And several people have come into the office, and I've re-talked to DPW, and we want the sidewalk to the town line. And that wouldn't be the whole public amenity benefit, but I mean, it needs to be per the bylaw. But I think a sidewalk is a huge benefit for that whole area to get people to the commuter rail station.
Absolutely, absolutely. Couldn't agree with that more.
So this is a public meeting, so is there anybody in the audience that would like to make a statement? Hi, could you just identify yourself, please, with your name and address?
Yeah, I'm Tom McCusker, 50 Gannett Pasture Lane in Scituate. I've been in Scituate for 17 years now. One of the things, two things I had questions about the parking. Like you said, I'm from Alston, Brighton. They made major mistakes with parking, like removing it from the project. I don't think 77 spaces is enough spaces for something like this. A lot of people are gonna have more than one car in the unit, and said they might take the train to work, but they ain't taking the train anyplace else. And so I think reducing parking, I think, is a bad mistake. It's almost destroyed Alston Brighton with the overbuilding and stuff. Some of my other questions was like the buffer zone between the housing authority and the project itself. I only see like 2 trees there. And you know, some to be beefed up there. And what's the proposed rents and stuff like that, you know, for.
Well, we don't, that's not really part of our purview, so to
I
speak.
understand, but that's my question.
Yeah.
That's the park and the roof peaks, what's the picture in the roofs, is it all? It looks like it's a decent picture, but what they have.
I think they're 10.
They're 10,
I believe.
that's what they're not gonna be, I know you mentioned something about flat areas before.
No, we did our best to avoid any kind of look at the flat.
Is it Scituate has a 6 pitch minimum, isn't it? Pretty kind of a variant type of thing, I thought they passed a bylaw of that a few years ago.
We have standards in the
It's in our bylaw now.
What actual variances are being required, anything or nothing? What's the timeline? You don't really know at this point.
No, so Mr. McCusker, this is a preliminary meeting.
No, I just got a letter in the mail
Yeah.
just the other day and just.
And we're glad that people are paying attention and are engaged if we come and see this, because public opinion can definitely shape a project. We saw that happen in Greenbush dramatically. So your participation in every other meeting that we have, you're more than welcome to be here and voice all of your concerns.
Because I like on all of these, you can see some of the houses and, but you can see a lot of the houses around in some of the main roads. Like I found my house like in the corner.
Well, no, I was gonna say that, that overview, I mean, I know how close get pasture comes back there. It's not just over the miles to get out to 3A. It goes very deep in there, but not as deep as you think it does. But come again, we take every single comment seriously.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm Francis Collins, I live at 404 South Main Street in Cohasset, I'm a retired marine engineer. Been in that house for 52 years, so I've got a pretty good idea what the neighborhood's all about. And I'm delighted to hear about a sidewalk, I've written more letters to the Board of Selectmen for a sidewalk there. Anyway, that's another issue. My concern is there's a lot of paving in this project. And is the paving gonna be permeable or impermeable? Looks like on the drawing it's impermeable. That's, supposedly that's addressed by the stormwater runoff by the catch basins. But the catch basins, they discharge into what was called Hunter's Pond, which discharges into the Gulf. It also carries all the discharges from the Down Brook area in Scituate, Aaron River and Cohasset, parts of Marsh, parts of Norwell. We have incredible discharge through it. I'm also on the board of the Coastal Staff Institute of Research in Cohasset. We do water quality studies in the Gulf every year, and guess where the worst water is?
Right there behind Mr.
Right
Good's
back
house.
there. And I've lost probably 25 to 30 feet of marsh in the last 20 years. It's just dissolving. It's because of nutrients that are coming down the river. So we've got 55 units of housing in this project. Let's say each unit has 2 people. Reasonable assumption, some may have more, some may have less. The normal assumption for water consumption per person per day is 65 gallons per person per day. I made water on ships for years and years and years, so I got, of course, you run out of water in the middle of the ocean, you're in big trouble. So I know how much water people use, same thing as shore. 7,300 gallons of water a day going into a septic system. Now, the human waste, the solids, are being digested aerobically or anaerobically in the septic system, which is what it's supposed to do. But the water has to go somewhere. The grades on that project are down towards Country Way, towards what was Hunter's Pond. So all that 7,300 gallons, plus or minus, is going to go into the pond. It's going to add nutrients. It's going to further upset the ecology of the Gulf, which people in Scituate and Cohasset enjoy to kayak out there, to go out and fish and whatever. So the question I put to the town recently was, what about sewage? Well, it's 3 to 5 years away. My position is that if the sewage is 3 to 5 years away, then this project should wait 3 to 5 years. This massive project in that area. You know, the only thing constant in life is change. And Cohasset, Hingham, and Scituate, and all of these used to be rural areas when I was a kid. Now we're very much practically urban, going up from suburban to urban. A lot of people there, so we have to address the changes and make sure that it meets the requirements of the environment. This doesn't. Now Scituate has, let me finish, Jenny, and then you can jump on. There is a sewer line that runs from North Scituate all the way down to Greenbush. And there are 2 lift stations. Three in it at Beaver Dam Road. It's never been used. Never been used. What a surprise. I guess we're saving it for best. So, but we have other projects in the town that have been sewered. North Scituate hasn't been sewered. My favorite restaurant burned down. Couldn't build it up again. Why? No sewage. There's a project to pipe the sewage from Scituate through Cohasset to Hull. And somebody mentioned that was on hold, but it isn't, as I checked with all the files that be in Cohasset, and it's still very much on the front burner. It needs to be done. Needs to be done. So before we build any more big projects like, and this is a big project. This is a small residential area, we don't have great big. It looks like the Cliff House or the Black Rock House. So we need to be sure we get sewage. Before we approve a project like that, we better be sure that we have sewage. Stormwater, we can handle. Even with all that increased impermeable area, stormwater can be handled because it's relatively benign. But the sewage runoff, the septic runoff, or the septic infiltration or exfiltration, however you want to call it, is going right into that pond and right into the Gulf. And that's unacceptable.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Yes, Mr.
I just
Collins.
like briefly respond to Mr. Collins, with all due respect, the Board of Health will in this, Kevin, we have treatment on the sides of Presby system, and you can argue the other side of this coin. It's always like, hey, we're looking for groundwater recharge. You saw the whole town, our groundwater goes in, but we will fully comply with any drainage issue. I'm not an engineer. I don't know what leaches into the Gulf River and what it doesn't. So, but be assured, whatever the town has as consulting engineers, your engineers, we're going to address that. But I'm going to take exception. North Scituate, anyone who lives it is dead or dying. Not a thing has happened for 10 years.
It is not dying. Please do, I take exception to that, Mr.
Well,
Ornburn.
yeah.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
No,
I take exception to
what
that.
I mean by that, Ian, is that Jamie's Pub, a lot of the vitalized things, you need residences. And with the state mandate that's coming down here, this is a great site for this. And to wait till the sewer comes, you can be sitting here 20 years from now. And everyone hopes the sewer is here, but even when the sewer is here, it's gonna be enormous jockeying for what this is. This is one of the very few places we could actually provide on-site septic. And in addition to that, which we haven't talked to, which Ian and Patty know and Karen knows, there's still a possibility here. This abuts Scituate senior housing. We've reached out to see something, but there doesn't seem to be any enthusiasm. There's actually some options that the town can engage in this, but this development is independent of all those things. But for anyone to say, oh, don't build until you get the sewer, that's, Scituate needs housing. If you want affordability, you need housing. If you don't want to be cut off from state grants, At some point, you look at the Attorney General of Massachusetts, she's already said, I don't care about what you zoned it, I wanna know what you built.
One of the comments that we're looking at addressing too was to prepare the site to connect to the sewer. So if it is, we're gonna build this infrastructure, you could condition it that we connect to the sewer when it's on.
I have one quick rebuttal.
Can I say something? The town of Scituate is looking into several different options for sewer. They are working on doing some I stuff. And the state with the MBTA section 3A compliance, it's just zoning for it. It's not, doesn't actually have to be built. Scituate has been fortunate that we are building some multifamily housing, so we can hopefully be in compliance, but let's be clear, it's just zoning for it.
And so this is kind of like the icing on the cake actually for that. Like, as I said before, yes, Mr. Collins?
Just one quick rebuttal, Counselor, I agree with what you're saying, the septic system is good, I've dealt with septic systems on vessels all over the world, because we can't put our stuff in the water either. The septic system does what it's supposed to do to protect and degrade the human waste, but the water still flows downhill.
Is there anybody online, please?
If anyone online would like to make a comment, now would be the time if you could raise your hand or hit star 9 on your telephone. If you're joining us by phone instead of computer, now would be the time to make those comments or let us know that you'd like to speak.
So I want to thank a lot of people for coming. This is a huge project. As I said, these are not things that are done in 2 or 3 meetings. Rest assured, this is the way, if you watch this board for a little while, we kind of grind away for a little while. It takes us, we do not make snap decisions, especially on something like this, absolutely not. Our job as an elected board in the town of Scituate is to provide to the town what is the best product for the town. We try to obviously work with engineers and everybody else that we have to, with attorneys, but our job is to protect the town and provide the very best we can. That is our statement, that is our responsibility. So we're gonna have a lot of these meetings. Come to one, come to all, come to Zoom, it doesn't matter. Since it's so closely aligned with Cohasset, I know some of you are from Cohasset, I recognize people from Cohasset. Little town, people know everything. So, Karen, do you have anything else to say, or where?
Well, there will, I will start to work on a meeting with the design review committee, trying to work with the applicant to get time that's mutually agreeable to all. I was thinking that the continuance would be July 13th to give time to work on the issues, try to get the meeting with the design review committee, etc.
I have one more question.
Sure.
There was mention of bringing in some fill, did I miss, was there?
A little bit of film, was there a ability to?
Yeah, so there's a wetland on the back side of the property, where the MBTA is, and obviously there's one down gradient, so there's groundwater. And in order to construct a septic system, we need a 4-foot groundwater separation to the bottom of the system. For the stormwater, we need a 2-foot separation from the bottom of the infiltration to the groundwater. So groundwater is somewhere 3 feet, and based on modeling or historic discolorations in the soils, so estimated seasonal high groundwater is what we're designing on. So we need to elevate above groundwater to protect against what Mr. Collins was discussing.
So the site overall will be 5 feet higher than it is now?
I'd say on average 3 to 4. There is some 5-foot areas for sure.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for site plan administrative review and special permit for 4 multifamily buildings and stormwater permit in the village center and neighborhood district, North Scituate Village District, Outer Village, BCN, NSV, OV until July 13th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. and to continue the time for action filing with the town clerk until October 27th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Ms. Lambert?
Aye.
Mr. Bornstein?
Aye.
Ms. Burbine?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. McLean?
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to move for,
Look forward to working with you.
I'd like to move for a 5-minute break, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Burbine, Ms. Jaworski, Ms. Lambert, Lewis, Mr. McLean.
Aye.
You're right.
Thank you.
Okay, so you need to call the meeting back to order.
So I'm gonna call the meeting of, what's today, Thursday, April 27, 2023, back to order. We have a little short break. Up next is a public hearing for a stormwater permit at 18 Man Hill Road. How are you this evening?
In accordance with the town of Scituate stormwater regulations, approved 42910, and with the Scituate general bylaws, section 32050 stormwater, the planning board will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, April 27th, 2023 at 7:45, starting late, in the selectmen's hearing room at Scituate Town Hall. The subject of the hearing is an application submitted by applicant owner Mal Construction Inc. for a stormwater permit, property 18 Man Hill Road, which is 23,986 square foot lot, which was divided from a larger lot of Assessor's Map Lot 27-7-9A, currently 23,886 square feet of regrading clearing is proposed for this lot only. The property is shown on Assessor's Map as parcel 27-7-9B. There is over 40,000 square feet of disturbance with 16, 18, and 20 Man Hill combined. Plans are available for review in the planning office, town hall, during normal business hours, at butters and interested parties, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, everyone. My name is Jeff Essen, I'm a civil engineer with Morse Engineering. Here on behalf of the applicant, Mal Construction, and I see Greg Gray is on virtually. We filed a stormwater permit for a single-family home at 18 Man Hill Road, and this lot was created in 2020. It was part of an A&R subdivision that created 3 lots, and this is the middle lot of those. The other 2 lots on either side are currently under construction. So this lot is currently vacant. It's a little over a half acre in size, zoned R2. There are no wetlands or floodplain on the property, and it's not a DEP Zone 2 or Zone A. And it's also not in the Scituate WRP. The property slopes relatively gently in a northerly direction towards the side property line on the left if you're looking at it from Man Hill Road. And the proposed work is a single-family home, a paved driveway. It'll have a septic system in the front yard and underground electric, gas, and water lines services coming into the house from the front. Stormwater is made up of a grass depression on the downgrading side of the property. And that's essentially a berm along the property line that will hold back stormwater runoff. And there we have a couple swales going along the rear property line and side property line to convey water to that location. So that, we submitted all the calculations, and the burden of the developer is to show that they're not going to increase runoff as a result of the impervious and the development going on this property. In this case, the calculations show that it's about an average of a 43% decrease in the rates of volumes and a 10% decrease in the volumes, so rates of volumes. So where we stand right now is we submitted this back in March. It has been peer reviewed by Merrill Engineers. We submitted revised plans last week, and my understanding is that those have not been reviewed at this point.
I understand that that is because there is a time requirement on that, and it didn't wait, correct?
That's correct. It
Yeah.
came in on Friday and there was not time to, it was after.
It's afterwards, it isn't, we don't do that to punish anybody, it's
No, I
just that we
see.
do have a process, and everybody needs to be in the process.
I'm not complaining about that,
Okay.
certainly.
Just, but no, we have not seen.
We have our.
Mr. Palmieri, are you here? We cannot
Good
hear
evening.
you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you very well.
We're ready, would you like to speak to us?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. We did review the original submittal and submitted our report to the planning board. As Jeff said, I understand revised plans have been submitted, but we have not reviewed them. Our comments, there were a number of, I'll say, minor housekeeping comments we had. But in addition to that, we had recommended that the swales on both the northerly and easterly property lines be made more well-defined and that flow arrows be added. We also recommend that additional soil testing be performed within the grass depression. There was soil testing on either side of it, but none actually in the depression itself. We also recommended that the stormwater calculations be revised in order to take into consideration a portion of the runoff from 16 Man Hill Drive was actually directed towards this lot. We also recommended that a detailed construction sequencing and erosion control plan be submitted. There's the entire lot more or less is, excuse me, in fill. Our recommendation is that the erosion control plan be similar to the one that was done for lot 20, which we thought was very well done. The only other major comment we had was the grading easement. There is a grading easement on this lot for the adjacent lot. I haven't been out there recently, so I'm not sure exactly of the status of construction on 16 Man Hill Road, but the grading for this lot is dependent on the grading for that lot. So consequently, if it's not done, or it's not done according to the way the design plan shows, it's kind of up in the air. I think there has to be some way to address that. We recommended that the design engineer address it so that the board can review it, so that we can review it, and so that nothing falls between the cracks. I'm not an advocate of conditioning something like this because I really think the board as well as myself have to be on the same page with the actual contractor, because he's going to be the guy doing the work, so he's going to have to know what the expectation is. I think that's about it.
Thank you. So what the real issue is that easement has got to be resolved.
Yeah, so let me explain that. So this property here is currently under construction, and their proposed plan had grading over the property line.
If you please go to that, yeah.
This whole house is currently under construction, and they proposed grading over the property line and granted a temporary easement in order to place fill over that property line. That fill is partially in place at this point. Each one of these projects could be constructed by grading to their property line, but it would be kind of a steep slope on either side coming down. It's definitely a better project if it gets filled. I don't think it would negatively impact the stormwater calculations if the grade didn't come up, but nonetheless, it benefits both homeowners if that grade comes up, be a more aesthetic finished product. And in our response, we noted that the applicant for this property will coordinate with the developer next door to make sure that that fill is properly placed, and would accept it as a condition of their permit that he's responsible for making sure that gets done before his certificate of compliance is issued. It's in both of their best interests.
It's in both of their best interest to do it, and we want to see how the grading of that works with the grading of this site. We just don't want, it doesn't appear to be taken into account in this site plan.
No, it actually does. So normally we would show the existing contours in this area, but that's not what we're tying into. We're tying into we're actually showing the proposed contours as they come over this property line, and we're tying into those contours. Because realistically, that's what we're tying our grading into. And it's partially constructed at this point.
I think a little bit more work needs to be done on that aspect of the project. I'm convinced that that's what's being done.
I mean, I can sit with you and we put the two plans side by side for what
I've
we
looked
permitted.
at the plan, I've got a plan right here, and I'm not convinced, but we can perhaps sit down at a later date.
We need to give Ms. Herb that that's gonna work.
Well, and Mr. Palmieri,
And Mr.
I mean,
Palmieri,
because, it was told to us by the proponent when there was permitting 16, that the grading absolutely needed that, and the drainage was dependent on that. So for you to say otherwise is not what we heard before, and that's what we're gonna be looking at.
So they're grading to the property line in over, and we're doing the same thing, grading back that direction. So I mean, either applicant could put a boulder wall or some sort of rip-wrap embankment there. It's not ideal. I mean, and that fill is already partially in place.
Don't we need to see it on the plan?
Yes, I think we need to see it on the plan.
But that's what I was saying
That might
before,
be
is
the other
that,
point,
that's what
is
we're,
that we do not yet.
that's what we're showing on the plan. In our office, we've drafted it both ways, but ultimately, that, we want to tie into that proposed grading for the lot next door, so that's what we're showing.
I also hear chatter about a sump is needed out there.
What's that?
A sump is needed on the site.
Well, yeah, I think during construction, a temporary sump is needed, and that needs to be one of the first things put in on this site. The groundwater out here is incredibly high, and it's going to protect this site in the end, to have a temporary sump out there for the water.
Do you mean like a temporary sediment basin?
Yes. If it's on the new plans, I don't wanna see it.
It's on the new plans. It's right there.
I don't wanna see it, don't wanna see it, but it's absolutely,
Yeah, that was
it's
one of
gotta
your,
be,
that was one of Pierre's comments.
that's gotta be there. I do have a question on the grass depression and the concrete outlet structure. Does it have to be located there? I mean, have you looked at the adjacent site plan for 20 Man Hill? Well, if there's ever a problem with that weir, you know where it's gonna go? Right into the basement next door. And I don't really think that that's really good design or location. I mean, is there any way that basin could be stretched out a little bit more, moved down so that it's not going right into the house if there's a catastrophic failure?
Ultimately, the water's going towards the back right corner, so I'll take a closer look at that. I believe that's the best location for it, and again, the rates and volumes of runoff are being significantly reduced. That's essentially a berm along the property line holding the water back. And that's where the water ends up at this point anyways. The existing design point is in that corner.
I would suggest that you look at that strongly again, because, you know, it's gonna potentially go right into the basement of the house next door. And that's really not good.
No, we certainly don't want that, and that's not the
We
intent.
certainly don't want that. And I mean, I've been out there in that last big heavy storm that, you know, we got almost 3 inches, and there was a steady stream of water flowing down the middle of the site. The middle of this site. So I just, you know, maybe you wanna look at things a little bit.
Okay.
The one we had, you know, I don't know, several weeks ago, that was the last big storm we had.
We're supposed to have another one this
Monday.
week, yeah.
Monday.
Catastrophic storm. So, you know, the problem in this neighborhood, as you know, is the groundwater is very high. That's why there are no houses there now. You know, so if it's recommended by the engineer and the town planner that a sump be installed to protect your property and your neighbors, I would strongly suggest to be otherwise very foolish.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a public meeting. Does anybody, a public hearing, are there any comments from anybody in the audience? Or online?
Yeah, I'll make a
Yes.
comment. I'm at Jason Schumacher, 20 Man Hill Road, so I'm the property downhill from 18 Man Hill, currently building a property there. So where's all the water on this lot going? It's all going 100% to that back corner, right? To that spillway in the back corner, is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so that spillway that all the water's going to is 25 feet from my house. Right, it's getting built. So if I recall, I think I sat in, I don't know, 10 meetings with you guys to go through my lot, right? Maybe more. You guys made me put in, numerous drywall systems, front and back, right? Numerous stone trenches next to my driveway, right, with grates on there. Numerous grass wells in the front and back of my property. Right, none of this is on this property. So for you guys to make me do that, for this not to be here and have 100% of the water from that property, and then from 16 Man Hill Road, the other property, come onto that back property. So what's gonna happen when that
that fills up? Where's that water that goes over that outflow pipe that's on there? Where does that water go?
Well, all of those things that you say that we made you do, we're gonna hope it's gonna appear on the plan that we're supposed to be looking at tonight. So unfortunately for you, Mr. Schumacher, that's at our next meeting.
All right, sounds good. See you then. Have a good night.
Thank you.
I'm sure there's no other questions.
I know, anybody on, anything for the board?
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for the stormwater permit for 18 Hampton Road until May 25 at 7:45 p.m. and to continue the time of action filing with the town clerk until June 8, 2023.
Is there a second? Second.
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Mr. Bornstein.
Aye.
Ms. Burbine. Aye. Ms. Lewis. Aye. Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Moving along, so we have a Form A plan for 342 Summer Street, Scituate / Willville. The applicant is Brian Murphy, and the owner is Jonathan Robin and Caitlin Murphy. Is anybody here yet? Are we too early? Then we might be too early. So,
How about Summer Street?
We're for the Clap Road.
So, all right, we can flip
okay,
it.
we can come up to Clap Road.
We'll
We'll
get
Yeah, we can, I think that we will wait.
We don't know if they're coming, so.
I don't think they're coming, but, I mean, let's
Might
make
just be
this one
one
first.
So, we're gonna go to 133 Flat Road, the assessors map along 24-2-28. Did you read this, Berba?
No, you don't
It's
have
not a
to.
public hearing.
Good evening.
If you could just identify yourselves for us, thank you.
So for the record, Josh Green from Crocker Design Group, and Gabe Crocker, also from Crocker Design Group. So the A&R in front of the board tonight is for 133 Clap Road. The division will create 2 lots, both of which take the frontage off of Clap Road, which is a public way. Both of those lots have the required, greater than the required 100 feet of frontage. That, I mean, really open it up to questions for the board.
The only question I would have, would you at some point in time go to zoning board of appeals for section 6 and have 50 feet where that stone wall is and put a driveway out to the back? No, can't do it?
No, can't do it.
Okay.
Where was it? I was confused by the question.
She was talking, could you go for 50-foot frontage
No,
line?
on the other side. Up at the top.
I don't, you're saying like where the existing house is?
Nope,
No.
no,
So-
on the property line.
Here?
Right? No, up, right there.
Yeah, so up above the existing house.
Yes.
No, I don't believe we have the area for it.
Right, they don't have the lot area for it.
That's correct. We only have enough area for what we have. My understanding is that 50-foot frontage lots require twice the
Okay.
land area. We have just enough for the 2 we're proposing.
Because I believe the existing has just about 40,000.
You sure?
Yep, no,
You never know what's behind something.
Both lots have access and frontage. I mean, there may be issues down the line, but the planning board, I feel, has to endorse because they have access and frontage. You put your stamp on the plan that says, doesn't guarantee that those are buildable lots.
Okay.
I mean, as you see, the swimming pool has to be removed. Part of the garage has to be removed. It does not guarantee that the lot area is sufficient at this point in time. But it's got access and frontage, and that's what's required for the Form A.
And that's what we have.
Okay.
Any questions, anybody? Yes, sir.
I move to endorse as approval under subdivision control law, not required, a plan of land in Scituate, Mass, showing a division of parcel 24-2-28, 133 Clap Road by Shane M. Brenner, professional land surveyor of Crocker Design Group, dated 4/11/23, for applicant CDG 133 Clap, it should be street,
That is correct.
Unfortunately, that is how our attorney set it up.
Oh, jeez Louise.
It'll be changed, but it takes a while.
Care of Gabe Crocker as the division of land is not a subdivision because every lot shown on the plan is frontage at least the distance presently required by the Scituate zoning bylaw on the public way of Thomas Platt Road, a scenic road.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein,
Aye.
Ms. Burbine,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And would you change the stone wall? If you
Right.
change, make it
Huh?
opening in the stone wall?
No.
Trees in the railway?
No.
Scenic road here.
We just have the same Portland shape.
Thank you.
So you heard that.
And just
you heard that
procedurally, how does the
conversation.
endorsement work? Will you be able to be in touch with Josh?
You won't be able to get it till Monday.
Okay, that's, yeah, okay.
And
Perfect.
anything to do with that stone wall, you want to go back and tell us because it's a secret.
Right,
Yes.
so, okay, that's cool.
Understood, yeah, agreed, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, are people from Summer Street here? Can they just come?
Hope they were all with me.
I can present Summer Street if you
Sure.
want. I mean, you have the plan in front of you, Summer Street?
Yes.
All right, so what this is an A and R with, the access and frontage are in Norwell. The Norwell planning board has already endorsed the plan, but the lot is little pieces in the back in Scituate, so they're part of the lot. So, you know, the plan does have access and frontage, the plan should be endorsed.
These surveyors are terrible. They do this all over South River.
I know. I liked that lot like this. On this plan. Did you notice that? Didn't we talk about something in one of our conditions? See how it's a triangle?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're all set now.
We're all set.
So where are we?
You have to do the motion?
You have to do the motion.
No, that's what I mean. I just asked
To endorse this approval not required, a plan 342 Summer Street, Norwell and Scituate, MA, Mass. Stamped by Richard J. Wood, PLS, Mackenzie Engineering Group, for applicant Brian Murphy and owners Jonathan Robin and Caitlin Murphy, dated December 20, 2022, as the division of the tract of land shown on the accompanying plan is not a subdivision because every lot on the plan has frontage of at least the distance presently required by the Scituate zoning bylaw on the public way of Summer Street in Norwell.
Is there a second?
Second.
Favor?
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein,
Aye.
Ms. Burbine, Ms. Lewis, Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
Weren't we at one point talking about lot width in terms of where you could put a house,
How it's measured.
how it's measured? And how a triangle was such that maybe we just,
That was in the
For the
last
lot
bylaw,
shape
the
factor.
lot shape factor, but I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't talk about that. Oh, did we do something?
we don't
Losing
have.
my mind.
Okay.
That left town with no forwarding
I
address.
thought I brought my folder in, but it was bright orange leather. I don't see it.
We took it.
You did not.
Already,
If we find it, we'll certainly get in touch
I
with
don't
you.
think,
I lose everything.
no, I don't think, that- I mean, the lot width is definitely measured from the front of the building. I mean, where you measure the actual lot width to be in Scituate to be on a R1 lot, 175 feet is at the front of the building.
But this is Norwell, so it's,
Right, so it's kind of,
who cares?
right.
Oh.
It's kind of relative.
Moot point. Okay, now.
Endorsement.
I move
Right, do you want me to talk about endorsement first? Yes.
Sure, why not? We have plenty of time.
So, John Cheshire has reviewed the plans. I have reviewed the plans. John Cheshire pointed out, if you read his report, that he was concerned about reconditioned stockpiles, not within 100 feet, not in the 100-foot buffer zone. Well, that's not possible on this project. This also has an order of conditions, so I propose that we just, whatever conservation says for stockpiles, will go.
Sounds good.
The other thing that, you have, whatever, the 17 Mylars, whatever, the planting plan is not included. They didn't make the change in the planting plan that I asked for yet. Mr. Pollock assures me that will be made during construction. I questioned, you know how there's the ramp in the front? Well, they were proposing sergeant junipers and perennials to screen that. And I said, sounds nice, but perennials don't screen in the wintertime. So I want some type of all greenness there, and he said, absolutely, we will give you what you want. But it just, you know, it's, perennials don't screen in the winter, you don't want 6 months of the year to have it all visible. Sergeant Juniper isn't gonna screen that well, it only gets 18 inches, but, you know, it's tolerant. And in that place, I think you need tolerant. But we can, I mean, I will hold him to it, and we'll go from there.
Well, how long have we been doing this project?
Forever. I move to endorse site development plans for the proposed residential development at 7 New Driftway in Scituate, Mass, revised date 3/27/23 by Mackenzie Engineering Group, consisting of 19 sheets plus a landscape plan, which doesn't exist, dated 4/3/23.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Mr. Bornstein,
Aye.
Ms. Burbine,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis, Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
I think we'd be here till midnight.
I did too. Oh, well. So we do old business, new business.
Oh, yes, stop, right here.
Administrative.
Here we go. I move to approve the meeting minutes for March 23rd, 2023.
Second.
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Mr. Bornstein,
I wasn't present at that meeting.
you were not correct. Ms. Burbine,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis, Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Thank you for, yeah, we're out of 5, thank you. Mr. Bornstein abstained.
Next we have, oh my goodness.
We haven't had a meeting in a long time.
No kidding. I move to approve the requisition of $6,400 for Tech Inc. for peer review of stormwater for Laurel Wood lots 3, 4, 5, and for $32.50 to Karen Joseph for reimbursement for refreshments for a meeting with town reps O'Connor and Kearney. You didn't bring a copy? $2,658.25 to Chesley Consulting for peer review services for 61 New Driftway. For Chesley Consulting for peer review services for 33 New Driftway, 7 McDonald Terrace. From $990 to Horsley Witten for peer review services for 16 Crescent Avenue. For $270.40 to Gatehouse Media for legal ads for 27 Pineview Drive and 62 Pin Oak, for $49 to Karen Joseph for clothing allowance. Okay. For $1,575 to Miracle Corporation for peer review services for 18 Man Hill Road, for $1,312.50 to Miracle for peer review services for 6 McDonald Terrace, for $1,400 to Miracle for peer review services for 20 Man Hill Road, for $3,478.95 to Horsley Witten for peer review services for Seaside and Scituate.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Mr. Bornstein,
Aye.
Ms. Burbine, Ms. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous, all in favor.
And in the union contract, I get a clothing allowance, then I bought a pair of rubber boots so my feet don't get wet when I go out outside.
It just,
It's interesting.
just what could you buy for $49? Don't tell my husband.
Yeah, I come on sale.
But then you get on one sale, then you have to buy two.
I want a pair.
The taxpayers of Scituate appreciate it.
Seriously. Or a cleaning bill, you never know.
Well, yeah, I've worked in towns where every fireman's uniform is cleaned every week. It's part of their contract, oh yeah. And we kind of needed the shade over the shirts were done all the time. Do we have any liaisons? Has anybody been a liaison since town meeting?
No. Not me.
One thing I saw that maybe I missed something that you guys talked about, but have you seen around town, there's a festival in Greenbush?
Yes,
To
yes.
promote Greenbush?
Next
Is that a
Saturday.
private thing? The
No, no,
town's
no,
not?
it's open to everybody.
But is the town involved in organizing this or? who?
No.
It must have got people in the Greenbush area.
Right.
That's good.
I think Susan Fury did.
Yes.
Yep, that came out, I had heard about that a couple of months
It
ago.
was online.
Yep.
Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, I see all sorts of signs up now.
Oh, nice.
That's good.
What is gonna be this Saturday?
May
The
6th,
Wow.
I think.
Oh, so maybe
The Saturday, the
May 6th.
May 6th. And there's a meeting on Monday in North Scituate, or sometime next week, because they will, North Scituate merchants want to do something in June to rally the troops in North Scituate. And believe me when I tell you, other than the wheat patch next to the gas station, the place is not done yet.
Well, I think that what he was saying is that you have a very vibrant business, but overall, I mean, it's just not attractive there. I mean, we can all agree to that.
Greenwich is unattractive.
And we are making it better, so this is our first step to doing that there. So, I mean, there's nothing to be said that it isn't done, but well, what, go there and take stuff, I go to your shop,
I also used to go there a lot more.
you used to go there a lot more, yeah.
We have to go to Boardwalk Corporate.
And I don't have to go there, I'm
I
pretty
know,
fine.
I've been there for a time, so.
And then Mary Lou's Fields is gonna turn into Boardwalk Corporate, it's a coffee shop.
That's
So it's gonna be a coffee shop.
So I don't drink coffee and
I
I
said
don't
coffee
drink
shop.
wine, so therefore I'm not going to either one of those stores. Karen, do you have a report for us or just?
Yes,
We'll go on.
I'm gonna just gonna schedule the Drew site visit.
Yeah.
On a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
I think that most people prefer Tuesday or Wednesday, I'm just gonna schedule it, and if you can come, you can
Great.
come. Okay? I had a meeting last week with them, a Zoom meeting. The local action units have been filed with the state, so those are in right now for approval. They've got 2 of their 3 transformers, so they have electricity.
Whoa.
They're projecting occupancy for July, August.
Do we know what the rents are?
I know what the affordable rents are.
What are the affordable rents?
I think a 1-bedroom's 2,000.
That's not affordable.
That we're in the Boston area.
So if you read the Sunday paper,
Yes,
in the address section,
I know.
I mean, in order to be the 80%, you have to get like $98,000 a year.
Unbelievable. I don't get it.
I said to Karen, I think at some point, we're gonna have to have like an Elmo Gantry, come to Jesus meeting. When you literally stand in town meeting, you say, you can't afford to sustain this, what we do anymore, I can't. That you just, at some point, something has got to give, I mean, we're gonna do it for $800,000, will come to Scituate, are you kidding me?
So, we are getting technical assistance for our Section 3A compliance. We have a consultant, they've given a scope of work. We will probably start in, sometime May, June, with that. But one of the things that kind of slid by me, and I just never really paid attention to it, is that on this affordable component, they don't like this 20% affordability. They don't want you doing more than 10% affordable. And so I intend to broach that with our consultants because we may have to start requiring economic analysis with projects that exceed 10% affordability and, you know, that go to a lower, like 60% AMI. You know, things that seem good for the town of Scituate, but I'll keep you posted. Seaside at Scituate is moving right along. I think I sent you guys all a petition we received from the Irvine Road residents. I think at this point, we just sit back. You know, they owe us, the project owes us putting in do not enter signs in the granite rumble strip. The granite rumble strip is in, the do not enter signs are there, and then we take it by ear as we keep going down the path. If there has to be a gate there in the future, then you guys will have to vote it. They don't wanna build the nature trail, by Basin E. That was the one they, by the clubhouse, they used as a sump. I highly support that because Amy and I were the one who suggested why build that section of the nature trail at all? They're having trouble stabilizing the existing nature trail. This section is just a loop around the basin. It's on not great slopes. And I have told them, I said I'd bring it up to the board, but I think they shouldn't do it. I said, but I want something if you're not gonna do it. So.
What do you want?
Well, I probably want landscaping.
More trees.
So, so that, this is just a reminder to everybody, because Mr. Boudreau reminded me, is that during town meeting, if an out-of-town person, if the moderator asks for, if town meeting wants an out-of-town resident to speak, all it takes is one no, and any of you could have said no.
I wasn't there, I'm sorry.
But anybody, you could say no, and then he wouldn't have been able to speak.
I think we handled that pretty well.
I think you handled it very well too, but he reminded me afterwards that, you know.
Yeah,
I think the moderator did say that.
he did tell us that.
He did tell us that, I just.
He did say this man wants to speak, and you want him not to speak, he did ask us that week.
So, I mean,
So
I'm just
we'll
reminding
of
you.
course, we're going to do that next time.
Yeah.
See who's waiting in the sidelines.
You know, we remain very busy, a lot of different projects coming in and, you know, it's the same old stuff. We're trying to work along through these projects.
So we're gonna lose toll and maybe pick up North Situate.
Well, toll is not really gonna be done, I mean, yes, the guy out at the site hopes to be done by the end of May. When I talked to Mr. Buckley this week, he said that's probably not realistic. Toll is gonna be there through the end of the year, and they may be into next year as well. I mean, all that's left, they are working on site work. They finished Basin E, I got that email today, but you know, all the basins, none of the basins drain within 72 hours. And, you know, when we did when we went out there and dug in each basin, it seems that the vegetation is potentially clogging the top so that it doesn't infiltrate. So I think we're still trying to devise a solution for that. Their engineer recommended raking and aerating, and you know, they don't really wanna do that. So stay tuned, but obviously, this board, we will not sign off until everything is proven to be per the plans and everything drains within the 72 hours, as any project is supposed to do.
So we have learned so much from this project, so much that I think has helped make better projects around town. I really do. I think even if you don't know that you learned something, you did. One of those crazy sidewalk things, those scuffles that
Oh my
line from
God.
day one,
They look like teeth.
that, you know, some we learned, and so now we kind of inherently.
Everything's a learning experience, and hopefully it makes whatever you learn every time makes every project that comes in better.
I like that.
That's all I
We
have.
were taught to teach school, that was our big days, every day we learned something new, as long as you learn something, oh, we have to learn one thing a day, and it's worth the time to go to school.
Toll Brothers was the first really big project to come through here for you guys, right?
Walnut tree.
In a long time,
In a long
in a long time,
In
yeah,
almost 30 years.
yeah, so.
In 30 years? Yeah.
Well, that was back in the 90s.
So it was the biggest one in a long time, yeah. But you remember, the economy has been going like that for many years, and, you know.
And keep in mind that Goulston sold that property to Pulte.
Yeah.
And then he turned around when the economy went,
Yeah.
and he bought it back again and made money. So,
I don't know how to do that, I'm always on the wrong side of that, always, I always seem to sell low and buy high, I cannot seem to get that event.
God love him.
Cannot seem to get that, is there anything, nobody else, the other liaison, with anybody?
I haven't been anywhere.
There's no CPC, nothing going on?
It ended at town meeting, so, which I was unable to attend for the first time in a gazillion years.
Well, I think what's really interesting, I think that we really, everybody needs to keep your ear to the ground, is this talk about, tennis courts at the high school. Because my feeling is, and it's always gnawing, that, they're gonna get rid of the tennis courts at the junior high school,
No, they're
so
not.
that's gonna be a giant
No,
parking
they're
lot. But, you know, if we can understand that rationale, right?
No.
What they think involved there, I know.
I mean, those courts are used all the time.
I know they
They're
are.
not going anywhere.
But the problem is the parking, that's the whole issue. So when you go in there, is there a parking issue? Do you go like,
I play on, well, not now, 'cause I played all winter on Sundays. And there was plenty, but that's indoors, plenty of places, and that's a limited amount of people that can play indoors, but there was never parking issues. You've got the front, and then you've got the back.
Do you mean at rec there?
yeah,
I've been to programs there on Saturday mornings, occasionally. It's only happened a couple times where it's probably just a perfect storm of stuff, and like people actually are parking up, like in the senior center.
But that's okay. That's
No,
okay.
I'm just
That's
saying,
okay.
like, that's the only time, it's been like, oh, wow, you have to like park somewhere away and walk down. There's a circulation problem there, basically. Yeah, there's arrows that show one way,
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
two-way street. So sometimes people come in the wrong way and then you're going up and someone's coming towards you.
Today that they've seen twice, people going the wrong way at the rotary.
yeah, that always baffles me,
Good luck with
yeah, I don't, you know, that baffles
We
me.
get people going the wrong way here all the time, you know how you're not supposed to go that way? We see it at least once a week, at least once a week.
They do it up in North Situate in front of, you know,
So,
no, not 7-Eleven, but the dry cleaners, they're going the wrong way. So, would you like a motion to adjourn?
Yes, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Ms. Lambert,
Aye.
Ms. Weinstein,
Aye.
Ms. Burbine,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis,
Aye.
Mr. McLean.
Aye.
Hope you feel
Unanimous,
better,
all
Bob.
in favor.
Take care.